I get up, I get myself some coffee, I highlight the headlines, and then we jump in here and we pick them apart piece by piece, looking at linguistic nuggets of goodness so that way you can expand your understanding of the English language, improve your vocabulary so that you can better express yourself and impress others. And if you're lucky, maybe even understand a little bit more about this crazy, crazy world in which we live. Good morning, mushrooms, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers, sisters, mothers, misters, and all my cousins. This is Breaking Down the News, and it's time to plug in and get this train a-chugging. Alright, we've got a great news day today. We've got some recycled stuff, but also taking slightly different shapes. Some other phrases we have not seen before. Is set to propose controversial Hong Kong security law. Hold on one second, recharge. If you are set to do something, it means you are prepared to do it. You are ready to do it. Just like in a race, like in the Olympics, the guys they say ready, set, go, and then the guy fires the pistol and the runners start running. So to be set to do something just means that you are prepared to do it, ready to do it. And what is China set to do? To propose or to suggest a controversial new law regarding security. If something is controversial, it means it causes controversy. Oh, but what's controversy? It just means it's something that can cause disagreement between different parties. It can cause disagreement between people, yeah? And so, I'm sure the residents of Hong Kong and the Chinese government might not see eye to eye on certain issues, as we saw late last year in all of the protests and earlier this year before the whole COVID situation began. Let's find out some more with the subtext, the caption of the photo, which could enable crackdowns on anti-government protests. That's what the law might do. To enable means to make something able, to give the ability officially to do something. And to do what? To crack down on. Here, the phrasal verb is used as a noun. They just took the two parts and you stick them together. Ta-da! You've got a noun from the phrasal verb. We'll see another one down below. But to crack down on something is to take strong or extreme measures to limit or restrict or even then punish actions. For example, the protests, because, well, Beijing does not like them protesting what the government does. And so they're going to take extreme measures like arresting people, tying them up on the street, beating them. Who knows? Maybe they're going to feed them to the lions. Who knows? Sad Ned Wed. Welcome back, sir. It's been quite some time. Nice to see you this Friday morning. Gonna be a beautiful day and an even better weekend. This new controversial law would enable crackdowns on protests, and it is being blasted. It is blasted. Ooh, it's a passive. By whom? Probably by the residents of Hong Kong. And to be blasted just means to be criticized very, very strongly. We see lots of different very colorful terms used in these headlines to refer to strong criticism. And we'll see another one down below. Back to business in Hong Kong with tensions between the government and the residents. Here we've got a different use of set, and this is they're going to set a target. They're going to create and establish a target. We set a target for ourselves. We set goals for ourselves, and it's to create or establish something which we then want to reach. So it's just interesting. In the first three headlines, we got two different uses of set. Dropped more than 3% as tensions flare up. Remember, tensions coming from tense, tight, things are tense, and if it's too tense, it could snap, and then problems, protest, violence, revolt, rebellion could erupt. They could flare up. It has to do with fire. A fire is just often burning. Yeah, it's just burning, but if suddenly that flame got much, much bigger, that would be flare up. And so it's a brief moment of more intense, well, light and heat, but in this case, tension and or violence. Oh, speaking of violence, here we've got scuffle. A scuffle breaks out or erupts, suddenly happens in Hong Kong's Legislative Council. So in their government, a scuffle began. But Mr. James, what's a scuffle? Well, I'm glad you asked. For those of you who were thinking that thought, I can read your minds. A scuffle is like a fight, except it's less serious in intensity. Often it's not, you're not actually throwing punches. Really implies is more just kind of pushing and shoving. Linguists believe that the word comes from Swedish. Skuffa, the verb skuffa, means to push or shove. And so it's probably from the Vikings or otherwise that Swedish term came into the English language. It's not a fight, less intensity. It's a great word, a scuffle. In a scuffle, if something breaks out, it erupts, it just happens very quickly, seemingly out of nowhere. And if something is tricky, it's just very difficult to do. Hey, Samuel from the taco truck. Thanks for tuning in to get the daily dose. All right. Oh, more caffeine, more caffeine. If somebody's wearing a mask, it's like their identity, their true character is hidden. And so by unmasking them, you're revealing what it really is. Like his plan was a secret. His plan to win the second term was a secret, and now it's being unmasked. Or in the past, we've had unveiled or revealed. Yeah? Great. That's wonderful. Here, we've got another one of those colorful words for a strong criticism of somebody. Up there, we had that he was blasted, and here he's being ripped. Ooh, magic. Yeah, they're ripping him. They're ripping into him. It's a very strong criticism, and as you saw, a very visual sort of way of doing it. They're criticizing him there's ripping him for going maskless on camera at the factory. Prepositions and a new term for strong criticism. And Cameron, you gotta move it so the arrow's in the right place. What are you doing? Here we go. Drone footage captures mass graves dug in Brazil. Now I can't highlight the whole thing, but there's a fair bit of vocabulary here. Footage we've had before, and it just means film or video that is captured. Now capture we often use for like wild animals or criminals, and they're out running around, running loose, and we have to go catch them and then keep them prisoner. With this, we use this very often with cameras and video cameras because it's like we have the image, we have the moment, and we're catching it and keeping it so that way we can look at it, just like lions and tigers in a zoo. We still use those terms because language doesn't evolve as quickly as technology. Mass graves. Mass, very large, involving a lot of stuff, in this case a lot of people. Graves are holes in the ground where we put dead people. Yeah, it's a dark headline. The other day we had coffins, which is a box for dead people. Typically you put the dead person or the corpse in the box, and then you put the box or the coffin in the grave in the ground. And so unfortunately they're making mass graves, so really, really big holes for lots of dead people. And how do you make holes? By digging. You get a shovel. Now, if it's a mass grave, they're probably using machines, but the verb is to dig. Dig, dug, dug. Ooh, gotta love those irregular verbs. They are being dug. Ooh, reduced passive, or that have been dug in Brazil. Dug by whom? Dug by what? We don't know. You're gonna have to watch the video or read the article to find out. If you do, get back to me and let me know. Trump confirms the US is withdrawing from another major arms treaty. Are we talking about arms? No, of course not. When we're talking about arms in the United States, we're talking about guns and weapons. Yeah, or in this case, probably missiles and nuclear weapons. We have treaties, which are agreements between countries about arms, weapons, usually about limiting them, either their manufacturing or their use or abuse. And to withdraw from, it's an interesting word, but we've had draw many times. And of course, we're not talking about making pictures. The word draw, another meaning is often, it's related to pulling, drawing somebody's attention. His comments drew criticism. Yeah, it's pulling something in. And withdrawing is like what we do with money from the ATM. You can type in your code and then withdraw money from the ATM, and you're pulling money out of the magic box. Here, the US is pulling itself out of this treaty or agreement. Excellent, excellent. Ooh, present continuous passive here. A generation is being wiped out by the virus in Italy, and the families want answers. And we've had wiped out before, but just actually involved more in my explanations than in the actual headline. To be wiped out, To be wiped out, usually used in the passive, is to be erased, removed from existence, much like an asteroid or a comet, some space rock, wiped out the dinosaurs, or this whole virus situation has wiped out entire companies, has wiped out many people's savings, has wiped out many people's patience. Sorry to break the news, Samuel, but yes, the dinosaurs are gone. They have been wiped out, but don't worry, our scientists are working very hard on bringing them back. I think I saw a movie about that once. Buy the virus? Why not the buy clause? Because it's obvious. And then that's one of the main reasons why we use the passive. It's just like a man was arrested. By whom? By the police. And as well, the effect is more important than who is doing it. Next up, here's a good word, not so common, stupefy. Yes, and if it sounds like it, it might sound like it, but yes, it is actually related to stupid. And if we add an ify on the end of an adjective, it usually does mean to make it something that. And so she's making them stupid, slightly different flavor and meaning though. And by stupefying, by making them stupid, they're like, to the point where they're frozen and their mind isn't working. And so they're being struck, being struck dumb momentarily by revealing, by unveiling, by unmasking. Yeah, those good synonyms. I like synonym on my toast. Or no, that's cinnamon, not synonym. By revealing the truth around the origins of Harry Potter. Ooh. She's shocking them. They are stunned. And even beyond stunned, they are being struck dumb. They're just rendered speechless. Here's some disturbing news. They are taking human DNA and mouse DNA and splicing them together to make human-mouse hybrids, which I think would be pretty ugly if you ask me. Interesting, and I'm sure there are good reasons for doing that. Probably not to repopulate the Earth after a nuclear holocaust or something along those lines, but who knows? Scientists made a decision to shelve a columnist, a journalist, who criticized somebody. Not really sure who she is, to be honest. They decided to shelve them. It's literally like taking something and putting it up on the shelf over there. And if it's up over there on the shelf, it means that you're not using it. And so if you shelve something, it means to set it aside so that it's not being used. Like he was a misbehaving child and they said, oh, you're gonna have to take a time out, go sit in the corner and think about what you have done. Sucks. If something sucks, it's not good. And it's interesting because the journalist was criticizing her, and so then the newspaper punished the journalist, and now she's criticizing the newspaper because apparently she believes in free speech and an open dialogue. Fascinating. Well done, Chrissy Teigen, whoever you may be. Mom's homeschooling rant goes viral. A rant, a long, loud complaint about something. Oh, this stupid virus, and I have got to stay home and wear the mask, and I got to do this, and I hate that, and you just go on and on and on. And it's usually a bit angry, and it's a criticism. Trump often rants about fake news, etc. I love ranting about things. Or the famous comedian Louis Black. He loves doing, his whole thing is ranting about society. I think George Carlin kind of was too. Backlash many times, and it's a strong public criticism of something. It makes everybody angry, and they're like, ah! The spark is what starts the flame. It's what ignites the fire. Spark a conversation, to spark a disagreement, to spark a fight, to spark criticism. Start it and get it going. And it's nice, very visual. Yesterday, we had this phrasal verb, to set something back. It was talking about school enrollment, because over the past few years, school enrollment was progressing, becoming more and more, and then virus struck and it has set it back. It has erased all of the progress that had been made in recent years. And when we do this with many phrasal verbs, just stick the two pieces together and create a noun. A setback often collocates with suffer. To suffer a setback. Something that erases all progress that had been made. Yeah, you were doing really well and right back down. I love this one. Again, visual vocabulary. She floats, to float an idea. Like the idea is a piece of wood. and you're just putting it out there on the water to see what happens to it. The winds can blow it this way, the waves can push it that way. Hopefully it floats and stays alive, or perhaps it might sink. If it sinks, that means it's an unsuccessful idea. If it floats, that's good, but you're putting it out there and other people can comment on it, just like the wind and the wave, and it just kind of bobs around and it might move this way or that way. And so to put it out there, to see what happens, see what other people think. And if you're lucky, it doesn't sink. Yeah, visual vocabulary, but also violent vocabulary. Often we have something was battered, boom, boom, boom. It means beaten, but in a way that implies doing damage, that damage was done. In this case, to pummel something just really means to beat it with your fists. It doesn't necessarily imply damage, but yeah, anytime you beat something, damage is done. And actually that's interesting because that's a great example of the get passive. More formally and more correctly, it should be as banks are pummeled. Often we'll use get in the passive here, and especially when it's a bad thing. To get fired, to get beaten, to get punched, to get run over by a tram. If you're writing a formal paper for school or something like that, use be, but in common speech we often use get, because get's our favorite word. We use it for everything. We've had so many times things like rebuke and reprimand, verbally criticize or punish somebody for something they've done because you don't like their behavior. But the opposite, as a friend of Ernie asked once, what would be the opposite of rebuke or reprimand? It might be congratulate or to praise. Say good things to somebody, especially in a way to encourage that positive behavior. Like when you say, sit boy, and your dog sits, and good boy, who's a good boy? Yes, you are. Yeah, because you want to make them happy, so that way it encourages them to repeat that behavior. Now, in the past, he praised China's handling of the pandemic. He said, good job, good job, good job. And of course, now he's contradicting himself and saying, no, you did it all wrong and you're trying to destroy us. Hell, you probably even made the virus and sit it in the lab and released it into the world. All right, so either way, that was the headlines. Those were the headlines for Friday the 22nd of May. Breaking down the news for English Otherwise. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Please do jump on the tube of views, the YouTube, and hit the like and subscribe and the thumbs up. Leave some comments. Most importantly, pass it along to a friend. If I don't see you sooner, I'll see you Monday morning at 8 a.m. And have a beautiful Friday and an even better weekend. All right, bye-bye.